I hope I got that in. If I got it in, it's going right at the beginning. Welcome, everybody, to episode 4 of Artistic Integrity. The podcast where we just talk about whatever. We spent a whole episode reviewing an Eminem album last time. So we're going to get to what a topic that was originally supposed to be on our last episode, and that's our music hot takes. And it's been a whole day since we recorded that episode, and AJ still doesn't have any. Uh, so my hot take is that he should get a take. All right. This, mo- this man stole my hat. That's crazy.
Is it the same hat? It says ha ha ha. I think it's no, yours is different though.
Yeah, mine's
Yours has
different.
different yeah.
Mine has like the Joker on it and whatever. I don't know. Point his hat's pretty
Mine too.
sick. Oh, but mine's like that.
What's your Oh, okay. Nice. Both are sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's toasty.
Anyways, music hot takes. I guess let's just jump into it. Because we got some very controversial stuff to talk about at the end of this that we'll discuss that soon. It'll probably just be me talking since everyone else said they didn't have much to add to that conversation, but it is what it is. Josh, would you like to start us off with your first hot take?
Yeah. So I don't know how hot of a take this is for boomers, but it's definitely a hot
AJ,
take
listen up.
for people our age. And it's just true. The, the landscape of how music is made and the business of music is so different now. And there's a lot of aspects of this current generation's music, and I would say even from the mid 2000s, not even maybe like 2010 is when the scape changed, but um today's music industry has severely damaged the image of what music actually is and how music is made and
Please
what an
elaborate.
artist is. I will. So this is going to be long, guys. So at the start of the music industry,
There goes the
when we
whole Zoom
first started
meeting.
getting when we first started getting vinyl, um, and even like back when early jazz was starting and you had all these great female singers back in the 30s and the 40s, um, this was an industry that was controlled by the artist. And the artist had complete creative control over anything they did. They could write what they wanted. They could be free to express themselves in art. And it mostly took a big bomb, not in a bad way. Like it exploded in the 50s first. You had people like Buddy Holly who were recording songs that weren't just covers anymore. Like Elvis was great, and I love Elvis, but Elvis was just covering songs that were already written and
Yeah.
making them more popular. But Buddy Holly came along, and actually even before Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry came along, and Chuck Berry was writing songs about not just like these sappy love songs. He was writing things about schools, like growing up, how growing up sucks, and being a teenager is rough, and driving cars, and all this stuff, you know, bled into the Beach Boys eventually with their catalog initially being about girls, surfing, and cars.
Well, yeah, and the same thing with the Beatles was that they started out doing covers, but then they kind of evolved into actually meaningful music.
Well, even their covers though, the point I'm trying to get at is not necessarily whether they did covers or not, but it's kind of the music that they were actually taking part of. Like Elvis
Mhm.
just Elvis sang great songs, by the way. But he was just covering songs, and by the time you get to the Beatles, they were covering music that Buddy Holly wrote and music that
Yeah.
Chuck Berry wrote. So they were already, even though they were covering it, they were singing music that wasn't the social norm of what was being played a lot. And what was being played a lot was the things that their parents listened to, which is
Also
estimated.
another musician that I think can't be understated is Fats Domino. I think.
Absolutely. Fats Domino is incredible. And all these guys were and gals were pioneers of this view that music doesn't need to be in one place. It always has to evolve. And
Mhm.
we are in a place now where music definitely has evolved. I think it's evolved for the worst, but not in every aspect. and
Yeah, I
but I'll
don't.
get
I
there.
just don't think it's a
But
defined evolution.
But
but
we're
Like
still.
let
like
me
I was
up
ask.
just
to the early 2000s, you could see a clear progression of the way music was growing and expanding.
yeah.
But I don't think you really see that progression.
Let me
And
ask
what were
this
you gonna say,
question.
Alvin?
Let me
Go
just
ahead.
ask, how is it evolving for the worse? Like,
Okay.
what about it
So
is worse than it used to be?
right, and like I pointed out, it's not that all music is this way, but what is worse is that music itself is so repetitive now. So you have one style of country, one style of rap, and that's what's popular. And
Also,
then
country isn't even country anymore.
no,
I
it's
think
not. But here's the problem is you have great genres of rap. You have good genres of country and you have all this other stuff, but they're not actually popular. They're not the stuff getting airplay. And like it really boggles my mind because I'll talk to people who like just last week I was talking to a guy who grew up in the early 70s and he said, "Man, it's crazy because you look at stuff now and like everybody follows whatever's popular. But back then, everything was popular. It wasn't just one style. It was you knew who everybody else was. You knew who everybody listened to and
there
why
was
they were
a
good."
greater ability to for people to listen to
Yeah.
anything.
Like
But
I'll talk.
can I
Go
say
ahead.
something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, but with the way media and art is right now, uh, things get popular because of algorithms and because of trends. Like
That's why it's bad.
if this one type of sound or particular you know particular song hits the top of the charts, and that's all we're gonna get for like a couple months, and then it's
Yeah.
just gonna happen again and again and again till that feedback loop is eating itself.
Yeah. And like he mentioned trends and stuff, and it's like that's what's popular because it overshadows the actual good stuff that's going on. And like Alter is a good example of like he's well rounded in a lot of hip hop. Like almost every genre of hip hop I know of, Alter knows about and listens to. But like not everybody, like your average listener is not going to know half the stuff that Caden knows because Caden's not an average listener. He's a rapper and he studies hip hop culture.
Yeah, and
Like he knows about it.
he appreciates so much music and consumes so much music that he's trying to expand his horizons like
Yeah.
always. But your average listener isn't. They have this one, kind of minute niche thing, which isn't niche at all. It's the popular thing, but they're not willing to expand that because it's the popular.
Listen, it's a very
Right.
I'm very flattered, the guys you said that, but I'm trying not to lose it because this man's doing a Giga Chad face in the middle of this actual conversation. This man's sitting over here just like
Oh. I think yours is pretty funny. Okay,
Well,
so
it's like one of my friends listens to a lot of rap, but it's the same rap. It's like it's uh you know it's the depression rap. Do you
yeah,
know what I'm
emo rap.
talking about?
emo rap. You're talking about emo rap. You're talking about like the little peeps and the X's and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
But so we where I left off, we were in the 60s. So the 60s obviously was the
Doing
turn.
a whole rundown of every decade.
I really am because once you get down to it, like it really explains what actually went wrong. So 60s was great because it was a turning point in the culture, right? So Beatlemania happened in 1964. They went on the Ed Sullivan show, blah blah blah, blew up the world basically. And because of them, nothing has ever been the same. And it's in my opinion, it's been for better and for worse. So
Yeah,
when
because the market realized that you could basically commodify music to
yeah,
that degree.
and like I mean, I'm not trying to say that anything will ever be like the Beatles because even whether you're a fan or not, you can't deny what actually happened and it will never happen again, which is four people from another country blew up as big as they did. That will never
Mhm.
happen again. Like not to that effect ever. It was like it's still to this day unexplainable and it's a phenomenon. But so when they released Sergeant Pepper's, for example, it changed the way people looked at music. And this was 67. So a lot of crap was happening in 67. You had Jimi Hendrix just came out. Um, the Beach Boys were working on Smile, which ever ended up never seeing the light of day, unfortunately. But you had so many great bands kind of releasing their pinnacle albums. And when Sergeant Pepper came out, it changed the whole landscape of music because you're hearing the first time of a pop band using stringed instruments and not making it sound stupid.
Yeah, and
Um,
really kind of striving for something bigger than just another album.
yeah, I mean, it was literally a cultural like flag, if you will. Like when you
Cultural
think of
standpoint.
1967, you think of Sergeant Pepper's, at least when I think of in music terms. Um, so after that, people started to try and make their own Sergeant Pepper, and they started to create music kind of like that. They wanted to expand their horizons, and it was great because you had so many subgenres come out of that. Like, for example, you have, and this is less of a subgenre and more of like a completely other direction, but Led Zeppelin came out 2 years later, and I don't credit them to any kind of like inspiration from Sergeant Pepper's necessarily, but Sergeant Pepper influenced everything, whether it was liked or not. Like it just moved music forward. And by the time you hit Led Zeppelin, then this leads us into the 70s, which is rock and roll era of music. Rock and roll existed, but it wasn't like the rock and roll lifestyle. Like the
Hmm.
Beatles were having sex with a lot of different women and they were doing a lot of different
Yeah,
drugs. And
this is
they
my
were making
lifestyle we're talking
albums
about.
and they were making a lot of albums and a lot of singles. But really the rock lifestyle didn't come into like and it's a certain thing. It's like in the 70s it was you smoke a lot of weed, you have a lot of women around you, and you travel with a lot of groupies. It wasn't super like it wasn't
Madman
that
just described 2022 in a nutshell.
exactly, and that still happens. um so Zeppelin kind of brought along this idea that you don't have to just play rock and roll, you can live like a rocker, which I hate that lifestyle. I think it's terrible. But I mean they did it and it looked cool.
I mean, I'm on
I will
opiates right
say
now because of Led Zeppelin.
exactly. Me too.
All right, so down to just our last co-host. So AJ,
Okay, I'm back.
no,
So
okay, it was just a C's. All right.
I died and became a Giga Chad all over again. Oh, behave, baby.
I'll
Um,
make you horny, baby.
so now we get to the 80s, and I wanted to bring this up because my mother and I were talking about this. Um, back in the 80s, there was so much music. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
80s is the decade of excess.
yeah,
80s
and the
is also
problem with
whenever hip hop became a thing. So I mean, it was
right, and
79 was really when the
when you get
genre became kind of popular. But
yeah, um, and actually, I do want to say, I figured you'd be interested in this, Alter. Jimi Hendrix actually jammed with one of the first rappers ever in like 1970.
who was it?
He was rhyming over stuff Jimmy was doing. I forget his name. I'll look in my phone. I have it saved in my phone. I'll send it to you.
All right.
When I saw it though, I mean I saw this years ago, but it just came back to my memory. Um, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. Um, but yeah, so now we're in the 80s. The 80s, the problem for me with the 80s is that it got away from the importance of what an album is and it got to like one hit wonders and like popular one songs, which is kind of a thing that we're having now. Um, and I feel like that protruded all the way till
I
the
mean,
90s. In the 90s,
it
no,
was
go
it
ahead.
was I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
it was more of a thing back then because nowadays there's plenty of ways to market yourself. If you end up just becoming a one-hit wonder, you just fail the algorithm, and that's just how it is.
Right.
So I
Well,
Um,
feel
also the 80s was the decade of kind of, the like perfecting the format of commercializing music.
Commercializing music. That's all I heard.
Yeah, I didn't know we had
Bro's
T-Pain as a special
frozen.
guest.
Bro is frozen. Bro is as frozen as Mr. Freeze on a
Bro
bad
was sitting
day.
here. Bro was sitting
Oh,
here.
there he is. He's back. You're back.
Okay. What I was saying is the 80s was the decade of like where they perfected the format of commercializing music, I think. Because the 80s was all about MTV and, big crazy music videos and
Well,
the performative aspect of specifically rock and roll.
yeah, and you know
We'll get
what?
back to
Thank
this
you for
whenever we
bringing
talk about the late '90s because I have something to say about that.
well, well, thank you for bringing up MTV because that leads us to the early 90s. Um, MTV was such a great thing that happened. And this goes into my other point of how the 90s was sort of like a return to back to basics. That's kind of what it was. It was going back to basics of what people loved about music, and they used that to their advantage. So albums were becoming popular again, um, as a whole. Like, I'm not saying in the 80s that albums weren't something that people listened to. What I'm saying is they weren't made mainstream by, critics and the Billboard charts. That the album is something that's as important as the single, which I've always believed. And I think more like rock artists know more or feel more strongly about an album than they do a song. Um, Particularly now, like people don't really talk to me about albums, or when I was in high school at least. Which granted wasn't too long ago, but still, I mean, it was always like, what's the latest Lil Uzi Vert song that came out? Like, it was never like, oh, Migos just dropped Culture 2, and it's a huge thing. It was
Hey, he
like,
knows
oh
Yeah,
no,
Amigos
it's about the
album.
next
That's
big
pretty
song.
sick.
It's,
bro,
it's about
I
the next big
love
song,
Migos.
not the album.
Um, Culture 3 is pretty good, but it's not as good as Culture 2. That's a fact.
That song with Drake's the
Um,
best song on that album.
yeah, well, Drake, House Drake now is no,
His newest album wasn't a
it's the
house album though. It
revival
was
of
the
Drake.
it's the revival. Yes. What's it called? Falling Back was the song on that album. That's the heat of that album.
Guys, you have to watch one of the last videos
You know,
to
go watch
understand.
our previous episode where we review Revival by Eminem.
It's so bad. It's a
Uh,
horrible
I love
album.
we need to do more album reviews though,
Okay,
because that was fun.
it was. Um, okay, so the '90s MTV, like AJ said, he brought that up. It started in the '80s, but and it was actually pretty big in the '80s. But why did my Xbox just turn on? So the early '90s, obviously, you have this again another change in the culture. Nirvana happened, and
As when grunge
that
became a
just
thing.
right, it just completely turned society on its head.
Yeah, and grunge, as I've talked with Josh a lot before, uh, I think grunge is purely uh, an evolution of rock.
Yeah,
And
and I
then you have
mean,
people like me who grow up on stuff from the '90s like Public Enemy and Nirvana as well.
yeah,
It's pretty much
right. Now,
the
actually,
mid
that
'90s is
lead
actually where like a lot of like the counterculture stuff came with music.
right, and like that's the thing. Nirvana happened, but then you have all this great stuff happening on the West Coast, which I
Yeah,
mean, Nirvana
yeah.
was, but in California, NWA happened. I
I
mean,
mean
that
that
flipped
was
hip
the
hop
'80s.
on its
That
head.
was the '80s. That was mid '80s.
It
Well,
was
yeah,
the
that was
80s.
late '80s, but it really it kind of pushed its
It
way into
now
the '90s.
it
At least
became
that's how
more
I
main
see it.
it became more mainstream with the likes of Death Row Records and Tupac and all of that, which
Mhm.
later then blew up the East Coast and the East Coast style of rap. And they had the East Coast versus West Coast gang rivalry, which then I think it also
Yeah,
lead into your argument because then you have the late '90s and early 2000s where the East Coast started taking over and you started seeing hip hop become more of a pop genre, and you had more like it was more like the hip hop lifestyle of like the cars and the clothes and the chains and all that, more so for what hip
yeah,
hop
yeah.
was known for in the '90s and the '80s, which was the bars and the lyricism, and which is where a lot of
Right.
underground hip hop started coming up in the late '90s and early
Mhm.
2000s.
That's an interesting historical parallel between the two genres that they go through those different kind of eras of definition.
Yeah. But yeah, so the 90s was much more a return to basics. It was a lot of like it was just a lot of first off, a lot of great music from all genres. And it was more about the art itself than what came with that life, which is the money, the women, the touring, the lifestyle, which, you
What I'm
know,
doing it for. It's what
especially
I'm doing it for.
right, which I think rock and rap have super close knit, you know, histories of what it's like to be in that lifestyle. I mean, rap and rock are both heavily drug fueled, heavily groupie fueled, and a lot of just going around the country on
Just
emotion.
go listen to my music where I talk about sipping lean and screwing hoes.
and and
Exactly.
and they both have they both have very similar beginnings too.
Right.
And both are taken over by white people, even though they're created by black people. That's coming from white man. I'm just saying.
So now we get to the 2000s, which is where I think it started to die down. And here is where still we see that the artist has control. And what I mean isn't that artists still can release what they want, but they kind of can't. And this
They,
gets into
they
the whole
won't they
social
won't
media
get the
thing and the
reaction
algorithms.
they want. They won't
Huh?
get the reaction they want if the trends and the public is wanting something else.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing.
Um,
I feel like it's a gift and a curse because now you have more independent record labels becoming a thing, which still carry on that, and then you just
yeah.
have the popular stuff. So, if anything, your main
But you know,
argument is just the popular stuff has gotten worse because if you really look at it, there's more music and there's more music that is arguably better than what came out before.
not necessarily. And what I was going to say is this is that back then, if you were indie, like what we consider now to be indie, you'd be signed to a label because that was what they liked. They liked different.
But see, that's just a
And when they
generational
didn't
thing. It's
like,
just genres change, people what they want from music generally changes.
but also the business side changed.
Well,
The
yeah,
business was
as soon as you realize what's
business wants you
popular,
for
then that's
their
obviously what they're gonna gravitate towards.
right, but I don't know where it got flipped in a sense of how it happened exactly, but I think it was a couple of things. It was the rise of social media, it was everything getting digitalized, and it was the fact that because of all that, artists couldn't control what anybody did with their art. I think that's a part of it. So what ends up happening? Well, labels end up getting control of everything you do and saying
But
you have to do this, you have to do
here's
that.
the thing,
When
though.
back then it was like you were the it was like being an indie artist. I mean, you were still had obligations. You have to release a single this time, you have to release an album now, but it wasn't like it is now. Go ahead.
But I feel like the thing though is that nowadays with social media and everything, and it's gonna lean to one of my hot takes too. So I'm not gonna try to talk too much right now, but I feel like that nowadays, like I feel like back then, everything was more label driven because you couldn't get your music out there without a record label. Like you couldn't get anything out there
I agree.
without having that
I
label.
agree with you.
And nowadays with social media and with the internet, we are blessed to be in a day and age where we like me and you can just release music whenever we feel like.
I agree with you. That's great. But what I'm trying to get at is more along the lines of you didn't have to do that because back then if you had talent, then they would sign you anyway. But now there's so many cats out there like that have immense amounts of talent that aren't being signed because they don't have enough followers or they don't have enough
But here's the
streams.
thing:
So
we live in a day and age where you don't need to be signed. That's where you have a lot of independent artists who are like I know rappers
I
who like Joyner
agree.
Lucas and stuff like they're
What,
rich and they're not signed to any label.
what's like? Uh,
I agree with you.
okay.
But
Also, can I say something?
sure.
I think both of you have very good points, but I think there's pluses and minuses to both eras. Like now, yes, there is an ability for everybody to get their music out there, but because of algorithms and and trend based uh, a trend based market, which is constantly shifting, it's not dependable whatsoever. It's like it's like sending a message through space.
Right. Like
Yes, yes, you can send the message, but
you're not going to reach
will it get to
anybody.
anyone? Because it's this big mass sea of, you know, cold dark space and billions of planets. It's like it's a shot out of a million.
Right. Like there's pluses and minuses. Like I agree. There's pluses and minuses to each,
Also,
but
there were a
I
lot
just
more
feel that
advocates on the label side uh, in the older generations, like with the Beatles.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like look at that. The Beatles could release, they were indie artists in the sense of they released what they wanted to release. Like because they were successful and they wrote the best music and people loved it. Now, nowadays, you have someone like Taylor Swift who is ass, who everybody loves Taylor Swift, but I think she's garbage.
Okay, buddy. Let's.
I don't care what you have to say, buddy. You think Pet Sounds is a mid album, so you need to just
I didn't
take a
say it was
step back.
mid. I just said that it
Wait,
wasn't
he
my
really
cup of
does.
tea. I did not say that it was
Pet
mid.
Exactly.
Sounds
I
is a
just said it wasn't
masterpiece.
for me.
I'm gonna piss in your face. No,
Please.
I'm just kidding. You mean that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So
Commercial.
yeah.
I might have to go to that commercial break here soon.
Um
Do it on camera.
no, so look, I just think like, okay, so for you and I are the perfect example. You and I release music, we're indie artists, we pay for our own distribution, all that jazz, and we produce and record our own stuff, which is really hard in a sense of it's very time consuming and we don't have anybody to back us. So, this is where it gets tricky because we're releasing music and nobody gives a shit. We have our couple people that really like it. You have a few people that just follow you because they know who you are and they want to support you. And then you have people who are just going to scroll past it. Like, that's the problem with being an indie artist because I know there's this one guy named I don't know how you pronounce it, Jeskel or Geskel. I think it's Jeskel. He's a terrific
All right.
indie
So testicle.
rock alternative person, and he doesn't have nearly as many followers as he should. He has like 4,000 Instagram followers. He's a terrific musician, and if anybody, you should go check him out. Um, but like there's so many indie artists that like I don't care anymore because it all sounds the same. It's like indie has become a genre. And like indie rap is ass. Not all of it. Not all of
Oh,
it.
hold on. No, no, no,
But
no, no,
you
no,
know
no,
that
no, no,
you know
no.
that SoundCloud shit?
There is not
SoundCloud
a
rap stuff.
here. There is not a genre for independent rap because you have the underground artists, and underground rap is technically a genre, but the underground style is way more polished than I feel like modern like commercial rap is. But when you get to like all like the terrible SoundCloud rappers with
That's what I
all the
mean.
auto tune and all that,
Yeah, that's what
that's
I
not a
mean.
genre. They try to appeal to a genre and they try to replicate what's cool, and it just fails. So
Hmm.
please do not put underground rappers like MF Doom and like Black Star with
I'm not saying
with
them.
like with like new
I'm
wave.
saying I'm not putting them. I'm saying all the cringy people now who are like 16 years old, 22 years old, making SoundCloud rap. No, but yours is good. I'm talking about the bad stuff. And people know what I'm talking about. And you do too. But
I got friends like that.
it's the same but it's different. Like there's not a lot of great like indie stuff unless they're already established indie artists. Like I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to be an indie artist, but with a label, this is where I think the generations should collide. They never will because music is just continually going a different direction. But I think if we had the abilities of what we can do now with the label privilege that we had from the 50s all the way to the 90s, music would be so easy to do because you'd have people that actually deserve to be on labels being on there, people that are genuinely talented and will move music and evolve it. You'll get those people and it'll be heard. Whereas now we get these like shit ass artists with the
Well,
same music
here we
just
this
getting
is this
so
is
much
just more
airplay.
of like a cultural thing then because this doesn't just apply to music. This could also apply to film this could also apply
Oh, it
to
applies to everything.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
I didn't say
cultural
it
thing
didn't. I'm just
that
making the
is affecting
differentiation that
everything.
they're different.
I guess that's valid. So in the comments down below, let us
And
know
that it
what you
was
guys
better,
think.
is what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, I think it was better then. And that's not because I like old music. I like all music. I like old music. I like new music. I don't care. But I just think it was a lot easier to get famous and be heard back then than it is now because you can put as much indie music on there as you want. But and there is some people like it's easier that people say it's easier than ever to promote your stuff, but it's not that easy. Like because there's a rhythm to it. There's an algorithm. And like people say, "Oh, you have to get into the algorithm," but it's like also fine, I will, but why should I have to do that? You shouldn't have to get into an algorithm. Shouldn't have to.
Here's the thing. As much as I agree that you shouldn't have to, I
It's
feel
the
like getting into
beauty.
that algorithm is easy, and it's something that I personally will strive to do is to get into that algorithm.
Well, so will I, because I'm a musician. I want to do that with my life. But I'm just saying you shouldn't have to do that. It shouldn't be like there's an algorithm. It should be art is art and we need to appreciate art. And popular songs are popular and they're cool. And there's also great stuff that isn't
Well,
super
yeah, it's
popular,
like
but it's still
art
popular
should
because
be
people listen to it.
quantifiable.
Yeah. And like I'm gonna take a piss on Alter. What?
And we're back
The
from
hell
that.
did you send to the group chat? What the
And-
hell is this?
And we are back from the oddly perverted commercial break.
What the hell is this?
Don't ask what I send to the group chat.
What in the world?
That's what he sent to the Speaking Nerd group chat.
So, Josh just finished up his first music hot take, which is weird because that took up a whole 40 minutes. The rest of this is not going to take that long. Put it on God. So I guess I'm going to start off with one of my personal hot takes that I feel like goes kind of with his, and that I think is that TikTok is one of the best things for independent artists, and it's for all the reasons that I've kind of discussed before. So I just wanted to make that just a blank statement that I feel like when it comes to the algorithm of TikTok, that I feel like it is one of the best things for independent artists to get their music out there. And if you could just stop shaking your head for 5 seconds and hear me out. All right, listen. There was salt in that. Why was there salt in my microphone?
You gonna get to your take?
That is the take. That TikTok is one of the best things for independent artists.
Are you gonna explain it?
I'm going to explain it because I feel like with the algorithm of TikTok, it is very easy to manipulate that algorithm to put yourself on people's For You pages. Personally, for me, I have gotten the most views on from posting on TikTok. So it might just be a personal bias thing. But what? Bro, AJ, your camera just like lagged out completely and it was crazy. But I feel like that TikTok can just like it allows you to put yourself out there. I have had friends who have found great success from posting on TikTok and promoting their music on TikTok. I know plenty of artists nowadays who wouldn't have even got their albums or songs heard if it wasn't for TikTok. A lot of modern artists nowadays who are popular were once independent artists
So
on
what I'm
TikTok.
getting from this is that Alter is looking for love on TikTok.
Dude, they got some. Oh my god, bro, them hoes be bad. We did a whole episode on that. Anyways, so I'm gonna go with another hot take because I feel like this one will start a bit of an argument while AJ is going on a whole detour through the whole state of Kentucky.
The underground
I'm-
sewer system.
When they
I'm
said
trying- I'm
underground
trying
hip
to
hop,
see
he's
if I
literally
can find a
underground.
better place. I'm
This is
trying to
the
find a-
heat of videos.
This is
I'm
the
trying
heat
to
of
find a better place
podcasts.
for
Dude,
internet.
if we make an Instagram, that's gonna be the bio. Is that this is the heat of podcasts? But yeah,
Okay.
so one of my hot takes is that I feel like most Beatles songs, while I appreciate their greatness and I love them, aren't that
You said this the other day.
replayable to me. I don't feel like they're that replayable in my
I'm
eyes.
I'm actually going to hunt you down and feed your eyes to
There's not much replay. I don't find much replay value in a lot of Beatles songs. I just don't.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I
that.
respect that opinion
I
completely because
yeah
honestly, it has to
I
do with like what you listen for. But how can you
yeah
not say certain ones are catchy? Like,
that's more
There
respectable
are.
than saying, oh, the Beatles are old, they suck.
It's
You
not that
yeah,
know,
like
because I like
basically
the
what
Beatles. I
everyone
have
says
Beatles
now.
songs in my playlist. Like I have a majority of Sgt. Pepper's in my personal Apple on my Apple Music library. But like,
You're a good
and
person.
I have Revolver on vinyl. But like, I just
The goated, the best Beatles
and
album.
I like listening to their albums
I'll
all the
die.
way through. But it's the same way with a lot of like hip hop albums. Like I will appreciate their greatness and what they've done for culture and what they've done for music. I just personally I don't find much replay value in them. If I listen to them once and it's like, yeah, it's cool. I like that. And then I'll go back to listening to what I was listening to before.
But that's not really a hot take though, because it's not you solidifying something into
well, yeah,
stone. It's not like you saying,
that's not an extreme statement
yeah, it's not like you're saying Beatles songs don't have replay value. It's
because
just you saying
well,
you personally don't see replay
that's
value
a
in them because
very
you don't feel that.
moderate. That was a very moderate and sane statement to
All
say.
right.
Like
Since that was a
a
very
right here, cold take. Right here, moderate take. Hot take is right
all right,
here.
rate this one then. I was coming up next. All right. Male artists are more relatable than female artists.
Uh, that's just I don't know. I don't know what to say to that.
I personally
That's that's
find
personal
myself
preference. Like
relating
that's
to more male artists than female artists. I don't
that's
find many
because
female artists
because
Okay,
you're
relatable.
a dude.
I'll say this.
That's because you're a dude. Dudes are gonna relate to dudes.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, most women have listened to men more than they have women.
Yeah,
Through, I mean, at least
that's a
until
majority.
recently, because
I feel like a
women artists
majority
have
I
of
become more
music that's
prominent.
popular nowadays is more male driven, and I find that stuff way more
See,
relatable
I
than I
I
find
think
I
more
anything made by
popular
women.
stuff is women stuff now. More
Nah,
popular
well,
music is
like
women music
not what I,
now.
well
not what
Taylor
I've been
Swift is
exposed
very
to.
big.
Well,
Okay,
Taylor
that
Swift is
makes
very
sense.
big.
Taylor Swift is just
Ass.
debatable, but she is just uh like she's
Yeah. Well,
overhyped for sure.
I
Does she deserve to sell more than Drake? Absolutely not. I mean, that album was asked by Drake, but still, I feel like that Drake deserves a little bit more just because he's Drake.
I uh like well your take is it's a preference thing. I I mean I personally relate to I relate and have emotional connection to an equal amount of male and female artists.
I
Man
don't.
trying to
I
man.
relate to men more.
Well,
I relate to men more, but
Yo, he's just
I
like me
do
for real.
relate to women. Like, okay, my favorite song right now is a song by
Is
a woman, and
Legendary
it's
by
called
Alter Bridge.
Spell. It's by Mary A. Digby. It's called Spell, and it's my favorite song right now. Give or take my top three favorite songs right now,
it's like
and it's so
Alicia Keys.
relatable.
Alicia Keys has been one of my favorite artists since I was like I don't know 10.
Yeah, Alicia
And
Keys is so good, terrific.
like I've recently
Terrific.
gotten
Absolutely
into this one
scrumptious.
artist, Sarah Bareilles, which was just a random find, and I love her music. Her voice is incredible, and uh, I think it's pretty easy to relate to at least the more universal, more universally written songs by both
I will
men.
say I don't necessarily relate to a lot of this artist struggles that much, but one of female artists that the only female artist I feel like in recent memory that I've actually listened to has been Yeba Smith. Shout out to Yeba. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of her. This man nodding his head like he knows. You don't know. I know him for sure. You two
No, I don't.
never heard of her. Go check her out.
I've heard of her. I don't know. I don't know her music
she's a
though.
great soul singer. Shout out to her.
I love soul.
Like soul R&B. And she's a newer artist. She was on Drake's album. Shout out to her. I really like her stuff. But I think she's might be the only female artist in recent memory that I've actually kind of gravitated to. And even then I still gravitate to more male artists than I do female artists.
I think I think it's half and half for me.
No,
I definitely relate
it's
to
definitely
them.
like a
It really depends.
95-5 to me. But okay, the next two I'm just gonna run through them really quick because they're both hip hop stuff, and I don't know if you guys would have that much say on them. One which I
Uh-huh.
feel like nowadays is a hot take is that Eminem is still the best rapper alive
Are you saying like
I can agree with that.
ever?
ever. I'm still putting it
The best
ever.
rapper alive.
Well, alive and ever. I feel like ever
I'm
is more of a
I
personal thing for me, but just alive, like when it comes to basis on like his lyricism and
I
his
have a hot
discography,
take.
I feel like Eminem is still up there.
I have a
I'm
hot
not
take.
sure.
I have a hot take that goes along with this.
All right.
Tupac is not that good.
Okay.
He's not that good. I've listened to all of Tupac's albums. I used to really like Tupac a lot, but he's not that good.
I will say
I've grown
he's
out of
not
Tupac.
he's not in my personal top 10. Oh, maybe top 10. He'd be bottom of my top 10.
I don't
Do I
I don't
respect
like the way
here?
he raps. I don't like
Do
the
I
way
do I
he
respect what
actually
he's done for the culture? Do I respect what he's done as an artist? Yes, but I don't
I do.
I I I don't really come back to Tupac stuff as much as I used to. Now there
Right.
are some Tupac
Right.
songs that I've recently heard, and I'm just like, hey, that's pretty good. But you
You know
know,
who's better than Tupac?
Eminem.
There's a couple. There's a few. Let me give you four or five that are just better than Tupac. This is a hot take too. Jay-Z,
Yeah,
Eminem,
yeah.
Biggie. Um,
I don't think Biggie. I don't think
Biggie is better than I.
I
I
like
think
I
Biggie
like
is better
I
than
like
Ice Cube.
Tupac better than Biggie. I
Okay.
love Biggie. I love Biggie, but I feel like Tupac is just I don't know something about his music. I just gravitate more towards Tupac's music.
Well, okay. Well, I will say this: Tupac's music is more relatable than Biggie's, but Biggie's flow,
I
bro, oh, unbeatable, my guy. Oh my God, I think Biggie has such incredible flow. Now, but I think the greatest rapper of all time is is
I
Jay-Z.
Is
I
ultra
have a
rap
different position. And
versus his
Bro
position.
just froze into
That is his
infinite
position.
space.
there's just not a
Bro,
kid place in this house.
This man's had to stand up for his take.
will the real will the real
For the
AJ's
real
internet
Batman
please
Ultra
stand up?
7, please stand up. But yeah, back to my hot take.
Okay,
I feel like Eminem.
okay. Could I say
Okay,
something about the
say your
hot take?
thing, and then I'll go back to my hot take.
Okay, I feel like I have such a other side viewpoint of hip hop, and obviously I'm not as I haven't been in love with the genre as long as you have, obviously, but um I really love the I love the older stuff, but I also love um well, obviously I love Kid Cudi, as both of you know.
I was just gonna say this motherfucker's favorite rapper is Kid Cudi.
It's gonna be either a,
I
a
I
Tribe
wouldn't say
Called Quest or Kid Cudi.
You are the
I
revival of hip hop likers.
Yeah, there's gonna be like four that I actually enjoy, and then the rest of it's just mid.
I uh I wouldn't say he's my favorite because I think a Tribe Called Quest would be my favorite, and
That's what I
I'm
said.
really into
Yeah, here's what I
the
think about
kind
that
of
take.
soul swearing side of hip hop.
I
Wait,
can't take it anymore.
wait, what did you say? Hold on. Nah, you kind of cut out. What did you say?
I was saying I really love the kind of Soulquarian side of hip hop,
So,
which is obviously the older stuff.
what the hell does that mean?
More soul oriented.
So you
Well,
like Kanye?
it was it, well, Soulquarian was a whole movement in like the '90s. I did a lot of research into
All right,
hip
old
hop
head.
when I started getting into it.
Bro made a gun sound effect and turned into a Giga Chad. The man got the Chadness
You've
shot
never
on his
seen
hand.
those videos?
Yeah, I've seen them, but okay, back to my hot take where I said that Eminem is still the best rapper of all time. Eminem is not put into many people's nowadays. He's not maybe about 10 years ago, maybe Eminem was on top of everybody's list. But since then, I feel like it has something to do with the fact that he's dropped albums like Revival, which
Revival.
Revival definitely really kind of tarnished his reputation because the album is
Yeah,
garbage.
you could say
But
that. You could say that.
yeah, as an Eminem fan who still thinks that Eminem is the best rapper ever,
Eminem's
that hit.
Eminem's career now is the heat of rap careers.
Yes.
But here's the thing: people don't. I get people who didn't like Kamikaze as well, which I feel like Kamikaze kind of inspired this whole generation of like white lyrical miracle spiritual rappers who no one likes them. All right, I hate them. I want to kill myself every single time I listen to a Luke Gone song.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because they all just try to bite Eminem's flow and do what he did on Kamikaze, it just does not work.
Yeah.
But here's and Kamikaze by itself is just kind of it was great when it came out, but listening back to it, you can kind of definitely I see more flaws in it every single time I go back to it. Here's the thing with Kamikaze and Revival, I feel like a lot of people have got turned away from Eminem, as well as basically what he's inspired, which is these corny lyrical rappers. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people have turned away from Eminem in recent time. But Eminem still has these classic albums. Still has Infinite. He still has the Eminem Show. He still has the Marshall Mathers LP, Slim Shady LP. He still has Recovery, Relapse. The Marshall Mathers LP 2 was a great album. He does his Bad Meets Evil stuff is great. And I even this is a kind of a hot take itself, but I really enjoy his latest album, Music to Be Murdered By. I think that's a great album. So really, I feel like even though Kamikaze's mid and Revival's garbage, I still feel like that Eminem's earlier discography is legendary enough to put him on top. And the fact that you kind of Eminem's one of those rappers you kind of just have to respect. And I don't feel like
I
even if he dropped the worst rap album ever, I don't feel like you could erase what he's done for just the culture, for hip hop as a genre, and just how great those albums.
hot take. Okay, another hot take. Freddie Mercury is not a good singer.
We've been
I
that.
don't
All right, Queen. I can't listen to Queen, bro.
Queen is ass. Queen is terrible. Queen, that's
We're
part
ending
two of
it
the hot
here.
take. Queen
We're
is a
ending it
terrible
here.
band. Freddie Mercury,
Queen
I'm not
is
saying
ass.
I'm not saying that he doesn't have a great voice, but he's not a good singer. I find annoyance every time I hear his voice and all Galileo, Galileo. Blah, 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 blah. There's only one Queen song that I can listen to
Freddie
on repeat. That
Mercury
is
is the
All of My Life.
heat of 70s music.
Yes, yes.
All right. I'm gonna end this off on
Do
my
you want
last hot
do
take.
you want to talk about Pink Floyd
Oh,
now?
wait.
Oh, you could okay.
One more. Jeff
Okay.
Buckley is a better singer than Freddie Mercury.
Oh, we've been new. We've been
And
new.
Robert
Oh
Plant.
yeah.
I don't know who Robert Plant is,
And
but I've
Robert
been new.
Plant.
I've been new.
He's Led Zeppelin singer.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I've been new. I've only heard like 2 Jeff Buckley songs, but I've already can agree with you.
And next album review is going to be Jeff Buckley's posthumous release.
I think
Sketches
Kevin
from My
Conroy is a
Sweet
better
Episode.
singer than both Led Zeppelin and
Not
Freddie
Led
Mercury.
Zeppelin, definitely Freddie Mercury. Robert Plant is where Jeff Buckley got almost everything he knew from Robert Plant and Nina Simone, those two. But we'll
It
get
doesn't
into
make
that.
him good, but all
I,
right.
I love Nina Simone.
All right,
Me
go.
too. She's terrific.
AJ, do you got a hot take before I get into my last one?
No.
All right.
No.
Bro, I had to think about it.
Oh,
You're gonna say something about Pink Floyd, weren't you? Are we gonna talk about how Pink Floyd is mid?
Pink Floyd sucks.
Yeah, I just said, do you want to talk about Pink Floyd, Josh?
Yeah, Pink Floyd sucks. This is like I can't stand.
We're in the
every
pissed
boomer
off part
loves
of the
Pink
podcast.
Floyd.
We just want to get
I
it over
hate
with. We're just
Pink
pissed
Floyd.
off.
Pink Floyd sucks. And like somebody said to me once, they were like, "Bro loves the Beatles but hates Pink Floyd. What a clown!" And I'm like,
When is
That
he's
was
gonna
my
bring an
reaction.
actual gonna kill himself live on the podcast? And just, I'm
there is
gonna have to edit that out. That's what's gonna be crazy.
There is one thing I can't get with. It's like, well, as I was talking about before, it's like it's the suicide rap stuff, the popular suicide rap stuff.
Because I like the Suicide
like-
Boys. I know that Josh does not like the Suicide Boys, but I really like the Suicide Boys.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Suicide Boys. I'm just talking about the kind of the generic, I want to kill myself.
I want to
rap
hang
stuff.
myself tonight over like a Shiloh Dynasty sample.
and like it's very poorly produced, and
Dude,
you can find
I
it on
saw bare
SoundCloud.
ass. I swear to God, I just did. There's no pants on that man.
Yeah, there is.
I was about to say,
There's no pants on that man.
dude's arching it back on the podcast. Let's interview an OnlyFans girl. I
I
think that'd be crazy.
I am your OnlyFans girl.
I'm starting my OnlyFans when I hit 1K followers. But yeah,
Okay,
AJ,
let's continue.
continue.
yeah, I was just talking about how I hate that kind of. It feels it's cheap rap, and it's terrible,
Yeah, it's
and
definitely
it's
one of those
you
rappers who
know
they try to make like I believe I can't remember one rapper said it in like a podcast. They were talking about how with a lot of the
Alfred
SoundCloud
rap is
rap and
better.
yeah, Alter Rap's the greatest rapper of all time, but also because of how a lot of rappers nowadays think it's cool to be depressed and how they make they kind of romanticize depression. They kind of fantasize about
uh,
suicide and stuff like that.
and it makes it worse for the people who are actually going through depression. It just makes them wallow in it,
Yeah, it's not very healthy to listen
which I've
to.
seen,
It's not very healthy
which
to
I've seen
listen
in
to like
people who are close
I
to
can't
me.
even think of any off the top of my head right now, but it's not very healthy to listen to that specific subgenre while you're on the edge.
Oh, also, as this is just this is a general thing to say, but Harry Styles sucks.
That's not even a hot take.
I
He can sing
oh I
though.
don't like
He
Harry
has a
Styles.
good. I like his voice, but he makes
I don't
garbage
really
music.
like Harry Styles as a person, and I don't like Harry Styles as a musician either. Harry Styles is a horrible actor, horrible actor.
Dude, that movie was so gay. Like it was actually just homosexual. Anyways, so my last hot take,
Oh my
the last one that
gosh.
I have written down on my notes app. This is one that another hip hop related one, maybe one that you guys probably can't really relate to because I doubt you guys have heard much of this person's music. But it's one I do want to get out there because a lot of people very much dislike this artist, and they have much recently because his most recent album was pretty mid. Well, it wasn't really mid. He just played it extremely safe, and it's very much just a label driven album. It's like the Justice League of albums, and
It's the heat of albums.
it's not the Heat because Heat had artistic direction. It's just that artistic direction was bad. But I'm talking about Jack Harlow. I think that my hat just hit the mic. I feel like Jack Harlow actually has some really great music, and this is the most Caucasian thing I've ever talked about because Jack Harlow is a fellow white boy. But I do have to say that I enjoy a lot of Jack Harlow's music. I don't enjoy his
I
newest album
know
because his newest
I
album
know who
is
Jack
pretty trash.
Harlow is, but I haven't really gotten into his music.
His his
Mostly because all of my very white friends at my school listen to it a lot.
don't listen to his newest album. It is actually the definition. Like if you go to the dictionary and look up the word mid, it'll be the definition. It'll be "Come Home, the Kids Miss You" by Jack Harlow. Will just be the definition. But I like his music before that. I really enjoyed. Now it is very much Drake inspired. He definitely does bite the flows of a lot of rappers. But I do really enjoy his music, and I think he has a great vision for what he wanted to rap about on his early mixtapes and even his debut album, which came out late 2020, I believe. Like all that stuff was really great, and I really enjoyed hearing that side of him. Now, the thing about his newest album that I don't enjoy is really back to his lack of personality, his lack of originality, and really just the underproduction. It felt very undercooked, and a lot of the feature artists as well didn't really hold up to as good of a standard as they could have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but with that being said, I still feel like Jack Harlow is a very good technical rapper. He's good at rapping. And I feel like if he would just show off his personality more like he did on his older projects and really just recreate what he did back then, now with his newest, whatever album he decides to come out with next, I feel like it could be a pretty solid album. I feel like Jack Harlow is a artist with a lot of potential. And I feel like a lot of
Oh,
people
I
don't give him
actually
credit because people just listen to his new album and are just like, yeah, he's trash, garbage artist. When really there's a lot more
I
to Jack
actually
Harlow.
I actually do have a hot take now.
I've been a
First class.
throw up the
I
sex in the
I think
AM.
I
First
think the
class.
1970s was the peak
First class.
of music.
Yeah, we need you to cover that Fergie song.
First class.
You
Sorry,
fogged
what
up
were
the
you saying?
camera. You fogged up the camera. What? Dude,
um
wipe it. Jesus
um
Christ.
bruh.
AJ, talk.
Okay, I was saying, in my opinion, I think the 1970s was like the peak, like highest peak of music and in my opinion, art in general.
I think you're completely wrong.
I still think the greatest decade for music was the 2000s, and I will die on that hill. Anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out
I
Artistic
think you're
Integrity,
completely wrong too.
episode
I
4.
and my saying that is not saying that there hasn't been anything good since, because there's been a lot good since.
Have you heard
But
Altered Rep? Like,
I
oh,
think
it's good.
I think the 1970s was the perfect kind of coagulation
He's
of
not talking about the
art.
decade. He's actually talking about the band, the 1975, and he's saying that they're the best
Oh my
band.
God, bro.
That band is terrible. But anyways, I guess that's it for this episode. I don't really. We were gonna get into some stuff at the end of this about Andrew Tate and Kanye West, but I don't feel like talking about Andrew Tate and Kanye West. So
Yeah,
you,
it's just a whack subject, and it's overdone,
yeah, I wrote it down
honestly.
as a joke, and then I was actually gonna do it, and then Josh killed himself. So I'm gonna just go ahead and end today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching Artistic Integrity. AJ, you want to plug anything?
Um, things will be happening.
Okay, so Josh, you want to
I
plug anything
am working
besides
on
your
my
corpse?
first feature
Never
film.
mind. Anyways,
Uh, but yeah, things will be happening.
yeah, I'm working on the EP, working on a song with Josh, that he'll release posthumously, and
I couldn't hold it in. That was so funny. That will release posthumously.
I'm working on YouTube, working on the podcast, really, really busy with a lot of stuff, and yeah,
Yeah, I've got
hope you
like
guys enjoy
14
my stuff.
videos lined up for 2023.
Josh looks like who's the Stephen Hawking? Is that the name of the scientist?
Oh no, I was
Oh
going for Jonah
God.
Hill.
The fact he's fat shaming Jonah Hill is actually disgusting. Please consider ending your
Bro,
life.
I'm fat.
Okay,
Well,
well, Jonah Hill is Jonah
did
Hill.
you just call him
Bro,
Stephen
I'm fat.
Hawking? I feel like that's worse
That's
than
the
fat
thumbnail. That's the
shaming.
thumbnail. That's the thumbnail. We got the thumbnail right there. Josh, you want to plug anything real quick
I
besides your
don't
butthole?
know. That's impossible.
Man, turn into Heath
Just
Ledger.
released a Christmas single, working on a second album. Peace.
Not doing anything with the Swifty channel? No, he just killed himself. All right. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video, this episode. Check out everyone linked below. Check out Josh's posthumous album coming out sometime in February, I believe. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.